Here we are, 9 minutes past the hour on our emergency channels, no longer on our main channel. Next week, we will be launching, by the way, a new channel.
Another channel.
Yeah, so we are preparing it, and it's gonna be a new, the Leo Zagami Show channel. Because remember, every time we reach 5,000 subscribers, they punctually start picking on us until they bring us down. So we are only really a few people today here on these emergency channels, but the problem is mainly that people don't listen. People don't listen, Christy, because how many times did I say to all of our audience, please subscribe to the emergency channels? How many times?
Every time you come on here.
Yes, and nobody listens. So I'm doing this show mainly for our friends who have contributed. And
do we really only have 4 people?
Yes. Okay. So we want to thank Bruce Scottish, Tina, Giuseppina Cairo, Ellen Socrates, Franek242, and Jeffrey Giampalmi for supporting and sponsoring this show today. These are really special people who make it possible. So for them, of course, we have prepared an applause session. Yes, we have an applause session for our sponsors. Here we are, go!
Brought to you today by
ta-da! And so thanks again to Bruce Body, who has made this possible, together with Tina Giuseppina Cairo, with Ellen Socrates, Franek242, and Jeffrey Giampalmi. Thank you so much. Yes. So that's for our sponsors. And now, of course, 11 minutes past the hour here in Palm Springs is 11 minutes past 10 o'clock in the morning, Pacific Standard Time. We have a lot of news to cover, so let's start quickly. Please share this video on your social networks of choice. Next week, we are launching a new channel because next week also we will be back on Facebook. And that means that we will have another way of promoting because the shadow banning, the censorship, the removal of our channels make it literally impossible to have this show broadcast, but we're trying to survive. We also, of course, once we launch the YouTube channel, our next move will be to also upload the content on BitChute and Rumble. So let's start with the news of the day. We have so much news. Chrissy, we also have some fashion news.
Really?
Yes, Linda Evangelista, yes, you know, that famous top model of the 80s and 90s,
yeah, I remember.
Seems to have screwed up her face. Once upon a time, she was a beautiful creature. It doesn't seem that's no longer.
What did she do?
Well, she did something called cool sculpting. I don't know what is cool sculpting. I really don't.
Cool sculpting.
Cool sculpting, yes.
I don't know what that is.
Have no idea.
What do they do it with, like? Well, did you read it about it?
Yes, I read about it, and you can see also our viewers can read about it.
But what is it?
Basically, it's
what did she do?
She said she had been brutally disfigured by a non-invasive body contouring procedure with Celtic cool sculpting. No, don't ask me because I don't know anything about this kind of things. Linda Evangelista, once upon a time, now, of course, she will present herself with a new look. Sad that these people, you know, ruin, they're beautiful and then they ruin their faces. I want to thank also...
They should do face yoga, really.
Yes, definitely. And of course, for those who want to support the show, we have the hardback copy and the paperback copy of the book of the moment. Volume 7 is really the book that says it all. I mean, this book, it's almost prophetic. It's almost prophetic. I just want to read you just a little passage from this book to make you understand how prophetic Volume 7 is, Christy, because we have really so much material on this book that people should check out. I know that my friend Alex Jones has also done a book on the Great Reset, but of course I preceded him, and my book was, of course, in the charts, especially when it came down to Amazon. I must say we had a lot of success with a book that I think, like I said, has almost a prophetic tone. For example, I discuss Ron DeSantis, saying that personally that would be my favorite choice, even if, of course, I respect very much Trump and the work that he has done. But like I said, we don't want to go into the politics here of it. But of course, this is a book that describes that whoever really will try to take control of the next seat in the White House will have some problems. In fact, the passage which I would like to read from my book is the following: the nightmare that started in 2020. And of course, this is citation from a book. So the nightmare that started in 2020 is not going away in 2022 or in 2023 or even in 2024. If Trump is back in the office, of course, I will always prefer Trump or personally DeSantis over Biden. But it should be obvious to everybody by now that 2020 was the year zero for the league's big move towards what they call the Great Reset. All things will only get worse for humanity, regardless of who is in power in the political realm.
So regardless,
how is the air conditioning? Down to what? Because it doesn't seem to be very down to me. What was
69, it?
Put it 68.
No, I just did.
Oh, that's good. Okay. Welcome, everybody. There's only 12 people. There's only 12 people. I mean,
I don't care.
I don't care because those people are special to us. But why don't people listen? Why don't people listen? When we say we will be censored soon on the main channel, please subscribe to the emergency channels.
Oh, no, my necklace.
Yesterday, I did the same thing on my Italian show, emergency broadcast on my emergency channels, and I managed to have 300 people in live chat within the matter of an hour or so. And usually we have, of course, 500-600 people, but at least 300 people showed up. In the English-speaking channel instead, I'm talking to 15 people. I mean, guys, you have to understand that for a professional who has been doing this for decades, who is working on important books to save humanity, to actually have only a few people, like 12, where are we? I mean, I have the disciples of Christ. Okay, better than nothing.
You guys are really, really, really special.
Very special. Okay, so let's move
At
forward.
least we all get it.
Well,
whoever's here gets it. Who's here anyway?
Telepandemia said, unfortunately, Italians don't understand. Well, I think Americans are even worse because, I mean, at least the Italians were a few hundred yesterday. Okay, so this week we have a lot of news, but of course, the news of the week that made the news more than other news was this flash mob takeover of a convenience store in El Secondo. That, of course, it's these people are Americans who enter 7-Eleven and ransack it after they organize a flash mob. This is more of a steal mob on the social network. Now, I don't want to be racist here. I don't want to be racist.
Whoever they are, they're acting like animals.
Yes. I don't see, though, any white supremacists amongst them, Christine. No. I don't see actually any white people amongst them.
No.
I don't want to be racist, guys, but unfortunately, this needs to stop. They're destroying a country that used to be a jewel of democracy, of a constitutional republic that definitely was never entrenched in the last few decades in racism and all that. But now they have fomented racism and all the racial theories, then the gender theories. We all have to discuss the sexuality of everybody like it's an important thing. And all these things, of course, in the end, have gradually undermined what used to be once a beautiful country. This is the reality of it, a country that unfortunately is under attack, and it's undermined willingly by the left, in course, though, with the right, with the conservatives that don't do anything really to stop all this. I mean, of course, what should they do? They should win the midterm elections. But when you see what kind of candidates like Dr. Oz is kind of losing, and in a state which was actually an easy one.
Why did
Donald Trump support this joke of a man? I mean,
I don't understand.
I don't know. I mean, it's crazy. But however, apart from that, we know that the DNA of the Republican Party has been regenerated definitely by Donald J. Trump. And even if he doesn't run, because we don't really know if either Trump or DeSantis will run for the next presidential elections yet.
They must not know.
No matter the endorsements that these people can give, I mean, they are not yet on the list, because the first thing to sort out is the midterm elections. And these midterm elections are definitely very important for America. But will they change something? Will they change something? When we see, though, the level of decadence of the democratic cities. And yesterday we were talking in private about New York, and you said, well, nobody cares about politics in New York. But that's what they want. That's what they want. They don't want you to take care about politics like they do in the middle of the country, because the cities are now completely in the hands of Satan. And I told you in my book, you have to abandon the big cities because there is no hope for them. Look what happens in North Portland. Look what happens in North Portland.
For sale signs line what were once sought-after neighborhoods in North Portland.
It makes you not feel that great about living here.
Many families are moving out of the city, escaping the homelessness and crime that's taking over the streets.
It makes living in the neighborhood harder and just not as congenial as it could be.
Greg Dilks has lived in North Portland for 30 years and says homeless camps along the Peninsula Crossing Trail near his home have changed the area.
It's the first time in a long time that we've actually seriously thought about moving.
Mental health, drug addiction, and just not having access to housing.
Okay, this happens all over the United States. It happens a lot here in California, San Francisco, Los Angeles, even here in Palm Springs. And this is because the people in power want the cities to literally devaluate, the cities to be gradually maybe even abandoned, because this is what's happening here. So they then can bring in their real estate and buy everything very cheap, and then of course reconstruct everything in the name of smartness, smart cities where everything is monitored, controlled, checked, where you can be secure, where you will not have any more all these problems. And in the meantime, this is what's happening in Portland.
Smith and Maria Inocencio share a backyard with the camp. They often don't feel safe walking alone or tending to their gardens.
Every day, if you go from one end of the street to the other, you're confronting some very difficult situations, people in really dire straits.
It's a little scary because I know there is mental illness, and that concerns me.
We are the most harmless people you'll ever meet.
TT Sanchez lives in one of the camps along the Peninsula Crossing Trail.
They shouldn't be scared of us for what? Because we live outside. Like, that's the reason why you should be scared of us, because we live outside. So if we lived in four wall in the house and stuff, would you still be scared of us?
A handful of for sale signs like this one are posted in front of several homes in North Portland. We're told at least 3 families here along McKenna Avenue are leaving, all due to nearby homeless camps.
I would say the migration to the suburbs I've seen quite a bit in the last 2 years.
Real estate broker Lauren Iaquinta sees it firsthand.
Most people don't want to have to worry about if they can leave their car parked in their driveway overnight without maybe having it broken into. It's a pretty testy subject.
Now, when working with clients in Portland, she vets the neighborhoods, checking for nearby homeless campers.
It's neighborhood by neighborhood. You can be driving through North Portland and you're in this lovely area where there's no issues, and then you kind of can make a turn around the corner and have homeless camps there. It's kind of sad. I mean, I've been doing this for 10 years here in Portland, and it's changed quite a bit.
The city plans to build a Safe for Us village along that trail, the Peninsula Crossing, where many of the campers in that area could go. But there's no timeline yet on when that project will be completed. And it's only temporary, so it'll only be around for about 3 years. But after that, there are plans to build a permanent affordable housing complex to take its place. Blair
the permanent affordable housing complex. At that point, everybody will be broke. And this permanent affordable housing complex will have 1,000 cameras. You will be microchipped to enter the area, or you will have to take, I don't know how many vaccines to be able to accede to it. So that's what's happening here in America today. And while everybody's focusing on trivial, the actual problem at the border is intensifying, and it's intensifying in a way that really leaves us perplexed, because there is a policy that is obviously indulging the people to flood the frontier when you have basically the agents who are there opening the gates. This is an incredible scene that has been circulating this week. This is the Leo Zagami Show, a rundown of our weekly news. So people like me, people who have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars in lawyers, who are still waiting for their citizenship, who are basically struggling to make a living legally and to be able to legally become an American citizen, have to see this kind of thing. Now, these people will end up enriching the poverty and the desperation of the suburban areas of America. And that's going to be, of course, more fuel to add to the fire. And if you think that that was the end of the line, no, it wasn't, unfortunately. The lines are really very big. We're talking here about millions of people entering the country each year, which is really an incredible amount of people if you think about it. Here, a Fox News correspondent showing just how many people in line crossing into the country.
Gosh. They're destroying this country.
And they are destroying America, and they are making America not great again. I mean, the Democrats are the ones who are making America a shithole that never was. So it's not a game. They're literally ruining it. And of course, we are fighting here at the Leo Zagami Show, and we are showing you our weekly news. This is the Leo Zagami Show on our emergency channels, Leo Zagami and Christy. Huh? Well, we forgot actually the introduction here.
We didn't dance.
Oh, we need a dance. Well, maybe we should restart with the
now,
dance.
live from Palm Springs, California, your host, Leo Zagami.
Here we go.
Yeah, it's okay here.
The Leo Zagami Show, our weekly rundown about incredible news analysis. Never we had such a situation where we are basically broadcasting for our closest friends and a few others who are starting to tune in on our emergency channels. I hope that by next week, when we are back on Facebook and with the launch of our new official The Leo Zagami Show channel, we will have, of course, many subscribers. The channel is being prepared, will be officially launched next week.
Hey everybody that's watching right now, if you haven't done it already, go over there and hit subscribe. So you know, make sure you get our videos next week. Hit subscribe. It doesn't always work.
Okay, so let's move on. We have yet more news. We have started, of course, talking about the decline of America. Unfortunately, flash mobs, people that invade this country illegally, and of course, all this is it's definitely a sign of decadence. But this scene that I'm about to show you is really something else. A woman on meth in Oklahoma managed to free herself from the handcuffs, steal a machine gun, shoot on the officer, shoot on... This is like the scene of a movie. Oklahoma woman on meth. Now she's held now on $1 million bond after, slipping out of handcuffs, grabbing a rifle, shooting a citizen and an officer from the back office of the car. The scene is literally the scene you can imagine from a movie. You will just think this is not possible in reality, but this is what is happening in this America that is increasingly more decline. It's all about decline. Chrissy, what do you think?
Well, I definitely can see a difference in everything, in everything, in people that I see around me. Something's going on. If you can't see it, you're blind. Really, there's really something going on with everyone. They're just weird. I think it's the you know what.
Well, yeah. I guess that thing that they injected in people is not really helping. So here she is in the back of a police car. I don't know how.
How did she get out of the handcuffs?
Well, no, maybe she had small hands. But the incredible thing is how she got the machine gun. I mean, do they leave machine guns behind with the people there?
No.
And it's like, this woman is supposed to be on meth. It's supposed to be a woman that is confused, drugged. And now she takes on a machine gun and starts shooting to both an officer and a guy who is out there. I mean, it's incredible. It's, of course, part of America's decadence. Here she
Where did she get that from? She just pulled it out from somewhere.
She pulled it out from somewhere. She's checking it out.
That's weird.
She knows definitely how to use it because, I mean, she must know how to use it. Or in some way, she managed.
This is for real.
Yeah. And then she starts shooting with it. And, of course...
Anyway, I don't understand why there was a machine gun in the back of a car.
Yeah, I mean, just placed there. It's incredible. I mean,
well, then they deserve it. They're that dumb.
Then she starts shooting.
She's not that small, so I don't know how she got out of those.
We don't really know, but definitely it's no, it's not fake. It's an official police video, and this is a show that doesn't broadcast fake news. So
is she just trying to load it or what?
I guess so. I mean, it's like incredible, but I mean, all this to just to understand how the situation in this country, how bad. I mean, it's a shocking Oklahoma police body camera video shows this whole thing, and then this woman called Rachel Zion Clay. Rachel Zion Clay, that's her name. Opened fire, hitting a civilian and a deputy, and the man screamed, "Oh!" Well, of course, after being hit, I mean, at least shots continued as the man and two officers ran for cover behind another marked vehicle. The man soon ran over to help his father, and officers rushed him to safety because there was this civilian that was hit in this whole thing. The Oklahoma authorities have released this body cam video that shows how she freed her handcuffed and how she then got a machine gun and started shooting. I mean, it was, you know, it's long. I mean, you see the video is long, so she must have been doing this for a long time.
They didn't even check on her.
It's really out of order. It's crazy. The Grady County Sheriff's Office responded to a wellness check at a home in Blanchard just before noon on August 12, and the deputies took this woman in custody and placed her in handcuffs until in the back of course, a classic, you know, a marked police SUV, and at that point she loads it. I mean, she loads the rifle and then she starts shooting. And it's just incredible that they let her do all that. Nobody intervened while she was preparing the gun. I mean, both victims were, of course, hospitalized with injuries that were not fortunately considered life-threatening, according to the authorities. And the wounded man in the video is the wounded man's son, who was nearby and is seen then assisting the first aid as officers call for backup and for an ambulance, of course, in this coincided situation. This is the Leo Zagami show, showing you more about America's decadence in the age of Joe Biden. An ever so confused Joe Biden, who, of course, this week signed that demented inflation act that would do nothing whatsoever for inflation. But let's see for a moment this scene that, of course, shows us once again a very confused Joe Biden. The pen, the bunch. I mean, he looks like. Let's watch it in slow motion. Watch how he is completely out of it.
That's really completely out of it.
Yes, completely out of it.
He doesn't know what's going on.
And his face.
His face. Oh boy, we're in trouble. We are in so much trouble.
So this is basically Joe Biden this week signing an act that in theory is made to prevent inflation, but it's not going to do anything to prevent inflation. And some say it will help the climate change. Well, it will not really help that much anything. And even that is been proven to be completely false. So it's basically wasting money, throwing it out of the window, so that money can then come back in through the donors. You see, a lot of this money is addressed to people who donate to the Democratic Party. And because they have to donate for the midterm, because they have to donate for the presidential elections, and they don't have that much money, they do this whole procedure whereby they create this act, pay a bunch of companies that are close to them billions, and then they in turn give back those part of that money with donations. And so this is basically what happens with this whole farce. It's really incredible. Unfortunately, we are in the hands of almost a criminal enterprise here. Almost
It is.
Almost a criminal enterprise, yes, unfortunately. They open the gates to the immigrants. They make these cities in America, they transform them in a shithole and all kinds of things. Now, on a positive note, I mean, on an unusual note, a few days ago here in California, this was seen above the skies.
Oh my God, where's Daddy? Oh my God, I got goosebumps.
Now, it could be maybe the satellites launched by Elon Musk, like in the past. We don't really know, but the people who are actually filming this at one point say something interesting, showing that at least they realize what's happening in their times.
Tell Jody and them.
What is that? What is that? Hurry! Hurry! What is that?
Fireflies? Maybe just a bunch of fireflies sticking out. No, it's not. Look, you're like going.
Are they lanterns?
No. That is something that.
What is that? Aliens?
Oh my gosh, I got goosebumps.
Yeah, I do too.
I rebuke that in the name of Jesus.
That's right.
Well, boy, you don't know what it is.
Maybe it's something nice.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Our neighbors are outside too, wanting to know what it is.
What is that? Don't worry, I'm the alpha.
Hey, can you guys look at the sky? There's stars or something. Look at the sky
No,
right now.
I'm pretty sure it's a scientific explanation.
Oh, this is definitely going to be on the news.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it's dissipating. It's going away.
Yeah, but they're.
The meteors? Jody said she thinks they're meteors.
Those are not
Those are not
meteors.
meteors.
No, they're not.
Jody, those are not meteors.
Those are not meteors. They
Check
were
that out.
closer. They're leaving.
Where? They're like.
Right over there.
Oh!
No, they were closer. Now they're farther away. There's like tons of them.
Jody.
What?
In the end times, there will be signs in the heavens.
I'm on Christian TikTok.
I think I know what they are. I think angels.
But in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
Wait, I know what they
It'll be
are.
signs
I
in
know
the
what they
heavens.
are.
They're gone. They're still there.
Still there.
They're farther away.
Mommy, I'm scared.
It's okay, baby.
Don't
Yeah.
worry, it's angels.
What is that?
Oh,
It's
no.
angels.
That is. Yeah, those are meteors, though.
Yeah, those aren't meteors. Meteors be moving faster.
I don't know what they're about, Bubba. They're starting to go away now.
Airplanes.
That's really weird.
This happened in California this week. Welcome to the Leo Zagami show, where we try to analyze the weekly news, me and my wife, in this show that has been, of course, censored and shadow banned and the subject of many limitations. Imagine that from October 2020, we have 16 channels removed. 16 channels. So, of course, we ask you to share this video. We, of course, want to thank our sponsors who made this transmission possible today. And if you are interested in supporting us, you can do it through Fundly, GoFundMe, and all those means. We have also Cash App that you can find in the description of this video, and made possible for us to carry on our project at least every week. And in the fall, we will be starting, hopefully, once the channel is strong again, we will be starting with some more regular shows. But this depends from you, really. It depends from the interest that people have in our work and in our show. But we want to definitely thank those people who made the effort to tune in on the emergency channels today, which has not been an easy one. We have been the first people here on our show to talk about the importance of Zaporizhzhia, of the nuclear plant in Ukraine, and what might happen. Now everybody's talking about it. On Friday, yesterday, Macron, Putin, they had a chat about, of course, I think yesterday, before, a chat by phone on this very complex matter of letting in the inspectors from the International Nuclear Agency. But the situation is really unclear, because on one part you have the Ukrainians accusing the Russians of maybe creating a false flag to, which I don't see why the Russians should invade the territory and then nuke it, because that's what I mean. If you sabotage the biggest, one of the 10 biggest nuclear plants in the world, you're basically, it's almost like throwing a nuclear bomb. But that's not the case, because it seems like instead it might be Ukraine more interested in something like that. So what is happening really here? Well, what is happening is that we are witnessing Zelensky in crisis. Zelensky, who had to admit finally to the Ukrainians that he knew that the Russians would be attacking him since last October, but he did nothing because he wanted to keep the economy of Ukraine going during the crisis. And he said that he would have lost like $7 billion a month if he started to. But that means that many people stayed in Ukraine because they thought it was safe. And instead they ended up being killed. So that is already a scandal that is starting to, for the first time since the beginning of the war, alter the perception of the Ukrainians towards their supposed leader, which is, of course, a tool, a puppet of George Soros. So here we are really in front of a very dangerous situation, which will, of course, not only damage parts of Europe, because we saw what happened in the 80s with Chernobyl, which was in northern Ukraine. Zaporizhia is actually further south, so it would be even probably more damaging for parts of Central North Europe. At that time, let's remember that the radioactivity moves always towards, seems that it usually moves always towards the west rather than the east. And at that time in Chernobyl, we saw with Chernobyl the radioactivity arriving in the reindeers of Scandinavia, arriving in Italy, where we were told to wash our salads 2 times a day or 3 times a day to not get it, to eat even any vegetable. We had to be very careful because the radioactivity started to spread all over Europe, not only in the north of Europe, because Italy is definitely not in the north of Europe. But this means that also there is a problem with the grains, because now half of the world relies on these grains, on this flour that comes from Ukraine. And the moment in which it becomes radioactive, it's obvious that that grain, it's not any longer, you don't want to make your bread with some radioactive flour or your pasta or whatnot, or eat your cereals with the radioactivity. No. So I really start to be worried, because I don't think the Americans have a perception of what's going to happen in that case. That means that half of the grains of the world, that means that basically on top of already the problems that we have that are leading to mass starvation and famine in the world, we add an ulterior problem. And so that is the moment in which we will see mass migrations completely crashing society. I mean, at that point, Europe, of course, will become a war zone with the Africans arriving in like an invasion that will not be able, we will not be able to stop. Now, there is a lot less people arriving from Northern Africa into Europe than from actually Mexico in America at the moment. But it might no longer be that, once the situation starts to get out of control. So the whole thing about the Russia-Ukrainian confrontation, it's only the beginning of really fomenting the future nuclear lockdowns, because the topic that today we decided to touch is a very complex topic, but it's also an important topic because it's about the future plans of the New World Order, with humanity. And what are they planning really? And what are they planning? Well, they're planning to use these nuclear lockdowns just like they used the preceding lockdowns that really kind of prepared and made us, this endless COVID hysteria was, of course, an experiment in social conditioning that functioned very well. And now we are going to see the next stage of all this. And the next stage is to lock us in our houses, get us acquainted, because before, they got us acquainted with Zoom, they got us acquainted with learning at distance from your schools, all that. I mean, they made us acquainted with living inside their homes through the internet. But the next move is to make us acquainted into the metaverse, force us into the metaverse.
But what if you don't want to be in the metaverse?
You will not have any choice, because if you want to live a life made out of a social life, you will otherwise be locked into your house or under your house, because we're talking about nuclear lockdowns here. We're not talking about. So definitely a Geiger counter would be definitely a good idea to have. But what we're seeing here, for example, regarding there is also a lot of strategy of tension. See, they are playing with tension. They are making people afraid. Just to watch the map that came out on the Sun, the map of the nuclear fallout yesterday, and of course discussing chilling map shows how Chernobyl-style fallout was spread across Europe as Russia plans attack on nuclear plants. So, I mean, of course, the propaganda is always aimed against Russia. The Sun, it's a British intelligence asset. But what we're trying to make you understand also is that there is a very creepy coincidence in the fact that just a few days ago, they used artificial intelligence tool to make images of the future of the metaverse. And I have just published an article yesterday, which you can find on leozagami.com, regarding this whole thing. Their diabolical plan to basically trigger these nuclear lockdowns and then acquaint us with the metaverse and then push us towards merging with the machines. Because you see, the metaverse can be joined passively through the VR, through the virtual reality glasses, through augmented reality and all that, but can also become the launch for their future plan, which is to merge man with machine. And these people will permanently have certain things on their bodies because they will be living there. So you say, why they
No
doing
me
this?
interested.
Okay, but I want to tell you what's happening here. Because the elite will keep on living in their islands. They will keep living in their rich resource, radioactive free. While instead parts of the population that are unfortunate in those areas where there's a major radioactivity, they will be forced into their homes. And then at that point, to have some kind of social life, they will be given the metaverse option. And then that is how the elite wants to push, by the end of the decade, 80% of humanity inside the metaverse, while that 20 to 10% of elite people can then have access to the resources, the fun, and the real world, where we, of course, are locked into the cage of virtual reality. They will make it more, they are trying to promote it in every way possible and imaginable. My new book that will come out soon, Volume 8, will also show you what they are planning for Hollywood in the metaverse and many other things. So the actual plan they have is a very diabolical plan, and it might not happen now because of Zaporizhia, but it might happen tomorrow because of a nuclear device that is triggered by some terrorist group, a dirty bomb, let's say. That is really unfortunately the future, and this this whole thing is being planned in a way. I said it here. The first stage is, of course, the pandemic. The second stage is, of course, moving towards the nuclear, and that nuclear then moves us towards transhumanism, the final stage of merging with the machine. Because remember that Cyber Satan, the aka the artificial intelligence, will be introduced as the supreme controller within the next 10 years. By 2030, they should be able to take control of the whole system. And at the moment, of course, many people will say that Americans have really probably rolled over, acclimatized too easily towards the various restrictions that were imposed on them. And those restrictions and the possibility of continuing with those restrictions is what the system wants, because the system wants to control us more and more. Please.
So I heard that there were some states and some like little patches of America during that time that didn't even lock down. They didn't close their stores during that
Of course, and they are the parts of America that are more successful now economically are the parts like Texas, Florida, where there was no limitations on the economy, no limitations on the people's moving around and traveling. Those parts of the countries are the parts of the countries that are actually doing better, because in those Democrat, sorry if I say shitholes like New York City, people are actually not going back to work. People are not going back to work. In Democrat-ruled territory, people are not going back to work. While instead, we see a thriving economy in those areas where people were able to continue working and continue work. While instead, the Democrats were giving money, getting people to stay at home, planting basically in their heads the idea that everything will be fine if they simply stay at home. Well, in that case, let me put it here. Maybe it's better.
Because we keep getting like this. I know everybody's noticed.
The light. But I think it's a light thing.
So annoying.
It's a light thing. It's a light thing. Definitely, it's a light thing. If you put maybe that closer, maybe we can.
No.
Yes, I think that might work out with the lights.
Well.
Yes, more lights we have.
Like that?
Yes. Let's see.
Is that better?
Yes.
That's not my. I don't like that.
Okay, put it back. It creates more shadows. Sorry, guys, we've been fiddling with the lights. Okay, so as you can see, the situation is definitely not a good one.
Now we have 25.
Well, that's better than nothing. So we will be, of course, seeing more tension around this nuclear plant. And it's not definitely the Russians who are going to create the problem here. It seems like the ones intended in doing a false flag are more the Ukrainians, to tell you the truth. Zelensky, especially, that in this moment of difficulty politically, because he's under pressure, might really say, okay, let's go, let's get that. The thing is this. Basically, the Ukrainians are saying, and the United Nations is supporting that. Guterres just visited the Secretary General Zaporizhia, that the nuclear plant in question, the energy produced there, needs to stay for the Ukrainian people. The Russians, of course, have occupied the station and would like to then take this energy and send it to Crimea and other areas that are, of course, or the Donbass, who are, of course, under Russian control. Now, the problem is that Zelensky doesn't want to accept that, and basically, apparently in secret, has threatened that if the Russians will take away the electricity from the Ukrainians, they will simply bomb the place, and the whole of the country will go to hell. So I mean, it's like of course a situation that is developing, but the idea really it's that. At the same time, we have drone strikes on headquarters of the occupied Crimea region. Now, Crimea was already annexed to Russia in 2014. It went through a poll that decided their annexation to the Russian Federation. So they're using the weapons, and America has just donated another 750 million of weapons to Ukraine, they are using their weapons against Russia, even in Russian territory. That is not such a good idea, because if they continue with these attacks, they might trigger the reaction of Russia, a reaction that, of course, will not be a pleasant one and might then at that point escalate in some nuclear confrontation. We hope that's not the case. But we still go back to the point that I was making. They want to force us into our homes. They showed that they can do it already, and they might do it again, because that's really what they want, Christy. What do you think?
You're probably right. I feel like we're going to probably get that happening again. Just because it worked for them before with the other elections, so they're going to do what worked for them, what made, they were successful with that, so.
Well, inflation is quietly stripping us of our private property rights. If you think about it, that's really part of the Great Reset. And that's really what I've been saying in this book.
And you will be happy, right?
Inflation is doing that. If you have less purchasing power to buy discretionary items, then by proxy, you have less private property. And that is a fact. So the Great Reset. And stocks, bonds, real estate, and the dollar are about, unfortunately, to get vaporized. That is what happens when the inflation gets into
stocks, bonds, real estate, and the dollar.
Yes, and that means that basically soon a lot of people might really have some serious problems because of that. People like, for example, the elder part of the population who is retiring, was invested in stocks and bonds, and and then maybe they have homes and stuff. And then we have, of course, the hysteria connected to the China virus, with the China virus is here to stay mentality, which is basically the admission also of the CDC that COVID is here to stay, and that's it. After 2 years of limitation, restrictions, everything to just now it's kind of like, okay, we can't stop it, whatever. So, but as long, of course, as you continue to inject whatever, that is really the mentality here, unfortunately. And stocks only halfway through a massive bear market, and that
partway through a massive bear market.
Yes. So it's time to take a stand, and it's time to see if we can survive all this. And I suggest, of course, to purchase this book and prepare for the great reject of all this, because we are not really happy with what's going to happen, but we would like people to wake up and to be able to at least save their lives and the lives of their loved ones in this in the proximity of this disaster, let's say. No,
I mean, in the end, though, and I've been in this situation with you where you had to choose between material possessions. Survival comes first, and then food and water and shelter, and taking care of your loved ones comes first. And so it doesn't, to me anyway, it doesn't even matter as long as I have enough to survive. And I think you come down to that when you're forced to be faced, which a lot of people have never been faced with that kind of decision. To me, it wasn't really a decision,
Just let's do it.
I mean, who cares? Who
Yeah,
cares?
yeah.
Who cares? Just, you can't have an attachment to material items, no matter. I mean, I know that you love your books and all your records and stuff, and I didn't know how we were going to be able to leave Italy, because everything you love, you have to leave it behind. But in the end, you do it. You do it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. You just do it. None of those things matter in the end.
Well, absolutely. Well said, Christy. And of course, the Western governments are doing everything possible to destroy the economy. They're build back better bullshit. This is the core consequence of everything that is promoted within the World Economic Forum. That is really, like I explain in my book, the fruit of a past legacy from the order of the Illuminati. That then went on to produce the League of the Just, the Communist Manifesto of Karl Marx, the revolution in Russia, the revolution in China. This situation is, of course, all part of a plan that eventually will produce a society of numbers, not of human beings, because human beings are not going to be regarded as important in 10 years from now when the machines will be in charge of everything. The machines don't really care about human beings. We saw it over and over again that artificial intelligence is pretty much hateful towards human beings. Hiding behind the false justification that current inflation is driven by too much demand, because that is what they're saying. Central banks in Europe, the Bank of England, the Bank of Canada, and the US Federal Reserve are raising interest rates all the time. The outcome we are currently feeling is an intentional economic contraction and what is a global recession. But from recession, we might end up then in depression, which is even worse. And Trump, in one of his latest speeches publicly, he said also, depression, because then from recession you get into depression. And the Build Back Better monetary policy is basically shrinking Western economic activity and impacting everything, and impacting even those countries they say they would like to help the countries in the third world, so on. So we might really be left with very little at the end of all this. And in the meantime, of course, they are brainwashing everybody. They are recruiting, like the United Nations just did, 100,000 digital first responders or info warriors of the UN cause, that in some way or another will be present online to push the establishment narrative on the China virus and everything else. So now we have, of course, people like the World Economic Forum that are advocating for the merging of human and AI to then censor hate speech and misinformation. I repeat, these are things that I have discussed all very much in volume 7 of my confessions, but they are, of course, at the moment, a very important topic of discussion as we see it unfolding, just as we saw unfolding Nancy Pelosi's provocation in Taiwan, and then other Democrats and other politicians from America that went to Taiwan simply to trigger a possible confrontation with China, a confrontation that we know it's almost impossible. But let me show you what has happened with the Chinese politician that apparently, a diplomat actually from China, that yesterday or the day before posted on their social network of choice. In this case, it was Twitter. A meme that, in a way, confirms that the Chinese know that 9/11 was an inside job, and they don't make a secret about it. So I made an article that you can check on leozagami.com. Here it is, and this article is about Lin Zhao, deputy director of the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who mocks the US on Twitter, implying 9/11 was an inside job. This mockery is rather clear, Kirsty, because just go. I mean, it's about what America has done. What Japan thinks I do, and they show the nuclear bomb, or Vietnam, and they show what Korea and all this. But in the end, what I actually do is 9/11.
So they're saying that we don't
No, they're saying
we're not doing it to other people. We're doing it to ourselves.
We're doing it to ourselves. I mean, it's like the narrative that America gives is a false narrative, and the Chinese are saying, "Listen, you are actually. We know that you." It's almost like they are sending a message, a coded message to America. Listen, we know that it was an inside job. So just. Huh? Okay, I have some more trivial news to go through.
Trivial news.
Yeah, well, something that can be a little bit less, less dramatic, but in reality it is dramatic because it is regarding a Florida man who survived an alligator attack caught on drone video. The guy survived, though.
Good for him.
Something to think about as we begin this next story. A 12-foot-long alligator weighs about 500 pounds. It can bite down with a crushing 2,000 pounds per square inch. A Florida man went swimming where he shouldn't and nearly paid with his life. The attack and its aftermath captured on video. It's hard to watch, but there's a happy ending. Even before he went swimming in a Florida lake, no one could ever question Juan Carlos Laverde's toughness. The former U.S. Air Force para-rescuer, triathlete, and firefighter-paramedic owns an outdoor adventure company. He was filming a promotional video for a race his company was hosting. This drone footage capturing a 12-foot alligator heading straight for him.
That thing was huge. It wasn't a little gator. It would be funny if it was a little gator.
Nothing funny about the attack.
With the right stroke, all I felt was scales, teeth, and then right there, I'm like, oh, okay. So what I think I did, what I felt like I did, was that I immediately tried to open its jaws, because I knew I wasn't a gator.
Speaking through jaws now wired shut, JC says he put his hand in the gator's mouth and fought for his life.
When I felt the teeth, I immediately knew, and then as I opened it, I know that either I turned it or it turned me, but it was confused just as I was confused. And then it just let go.
He swam to the dock, hoisted himself up, and was driven to the hospital by a Good Samaritan, calling 911 himself along the way. JC underwent an emergency 6-hour surgery to repair severe facial and skull injuries. Doctors removing a portion of his skull that the alligator's teeth had pierced. He wears a helmet to protect the right side of his head. He's been hospitalized twice, and more surgery lies ahead. His message to those who see this story: find your God.
Find your God. Find him.
Oh my God.
Silly. You know, I get that that's scary. I do. But life's scary place. So you could either carry that load by yourself or allow someone to carry it for you.
His adventure company is called Defeat X. In this case, X was an alligator.
Wow. Well, I mean, his message, find God, I mean, definitely a positive message. Chrissy, is that your crying moment of the day?
Is that my crying moment of the day?
Let's see if it is the crying moment of the day.
It's starting.
Jeez, man, like an alligator crushed your skull. He shouldn't have gone, of course, to swim in that place, but I mean, Florida, it's full of alligators. So, I mean, you really need to keep
You can't even go to Disney World without getting
yeah,
attacked.
I mean, so it's really, you need to keep your eyes open. So, guys, stay safe if you are, of course, in Florida.
And for the sharks, too. In Myrtle Beach. In Myrtle Beach, I used to go there because I used to live very close.
That is really, they had 2 attacks in one day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's really not like a place that has shark attacks, so it's very rare and unusual.
Staying here in America, something good happened in a very unusual situation. Well, we should judge it together. We should watch it together. It's about basically a girl who was about to be raped by somebody who went into a house. The mother saved her. The mother herself didn't look like, I mean, of course, she was scared of the guy, so I don't know. I mean, she looks like a tough cookie. The mother, maybe herself also, a derelict of a society. I don't know. I mean, she looked pretty wild. Let me show you guys this scene, because it's incredible what happened. And of course, we are watching it here on the Leo Zagami show, where we, of course, try to bring you the latest news, but also in our Saturday appointment, we try to do a rundown of the weekly news.
Weekly rundown.
A weekly rundown.
I think they say it on Fox.
Yes, is that what they say? So let me see if I can find all this news. I have so much stuff here that it's at times I get to.
You have a lot of stuff right there.
Yes. I have a lot of stuff, and I have this news that I would like to find regarding this woman that managed to fight the guy, but it seems like it's almost impossible to find. Maybe I can try here. Let me see. In the meantime, Christy, you can, of course, talk about it. Here we are.
Good, because I don't know what to say.
Okay. You should always be ready. Okay, guys, this is what happened in Arizona and Prescott, Nebraska. I mean, we passed there. We know the area. This is what happened the other day.
Now to a disturbing story out of Yavapai County, where a registered sex offender is accused of breaking into a family's home and getting into bed with a 12-year-old girl.
The sheriff's office says the girl's mother acted quickly, detaining the suspect until deputies arrived. Team 12's Adriana Loya spoke exclusively with the family about that terrifying situation.
I mean, she was tough, man.
While the Paulden community just north of Prescott slept, the Yavapai County Sheriff's Office says a registered sex offender broke into a family's home near State Route 89.
I had literally just gotten to sleep.
Mayla Hogan waking up to the voice of her 12-year-old daughter around 3 in the morning.
Now, the mother seems like a tough cookie, though.
Yeah.
I come in and she goes, oh no, guys. She doesn't seem
I
like.
went in the wrong house. It should be a mop.
She was laying on top of me and whispering and telling me what was going on.
Happening just feet away from them, the man authorities identified as 54-year-old Lloyd Beard was inside their home, half naked. The 12-year-old says the suspect lay down next to her and started touching her face. That's when the girl got up and woke up her mother. Mayla confused at first because she says the suspect was apparently singing, but quickly realized there was an intruder in her home.
I was telling him to get out, and I opened up the door because he just wasn't responding. And of course, I physically removed him from the house, but when I physically removed him from the house, I was able to tell that his pants were down.
The family calling police, while they say the suspect stuck around and hid behind their car.
I heard grunting on the other side of my car, and when I walked around the car, he was there, exposed.
Beard took off running.
He was kind of doing like a weird, drunk jog, I guess.
But the suspect not making it very far. He was tackled by the 16-year-old son just a few feet away and later restrained by the mother.
If I'm being honest, my mom, she got a lot of hits in.
The mother and son restraining Beard until deputies arrived. He was taken to a hospital with minor injuries and booked on numerous charges. Beard is a level 3 sex offender who registered with the Yavapai County Sheriff's Office last week. That department today applauding her actions.
You know, we're all impressed with the mom being quite level-headed. She went into, as I said, mama bear mode and made sure that she was going to protect her children.
By the grace of God, I'm a roughneck, and by the grace of God, I've got good children, and by that same grace of God, we will prevail.
Adriana Loya, 12 News.
Amen. Oh God, yes. We really report on the weekly news, and sometimes it's like incredible, no? I mean, definitely she's a roughneck, but she's a tough one. They were good for her. Good for her. She managed to, of course, protect her daughter. And I mean, there is definitely some weird news this week. One of the most weird things that I came across this week was this Pennsylvania man that was arrested for basically buying stolen human remains. Now, I want to show you the news because then I want to show you the face of this guy who was stealing the human remains, so then you understand what kind of guy he was. So this is Pennsylvania, man arrested for buying stolen human remains. So how do you think this guy looks?
As for buying,
Okay, now I'm going to show the face now of the guy. How do you think he looked?
I think he looks like a typical libtard.
Let's watch.
I was right.
This guy's typical libtard. I mean, this guy's a monster. Oh, he's a Satanist. He's definitely a demon incarnated. I mean, it's pretty clear.
But a lot of people are looking like this.
Huh?
Society is changing.
Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff.
And it's
Definitely,
really
yeah.
scary.
It's,
And it's just happening right in front of our eyes.
So,
I noticed the subtle changes.
yeah.
In just
Then we have
everything.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
definitely there is subtle changes, and then there is other kind of changes. This kind of change was a radical one when a mom chopped the penis off of the boyfriend because he was also trying to sleep with his daughter. So you see, this kind of tendency, perversion and stuff, is really more and more present in our society. You know? Mom chops off boyfriend penis after he tried to rape her daughter.
Good for her.
And and so this is like the second thing we report about people trying to abuse children. No? And this is what happened. Apparently, the guy got his dick chopped off. Amen.
I don't know. I mean, that's just terrible.
That is terrible, but that's what he did.
No, not to him. I mean, he deserved it. You get what you get. You get what you get. And if you're like that, you're going to get it.
I mean, that is really crazy stuff. Now, we all know that this week there was a lot of talk about that clown of Stelter who lost his job from CNN. Now, if you never saw that clown of Stelter, I'm going to have to show you his clowny face because he's no longer going to be with us on CNN. But having said that, the Babylon Bee apparently has offered him a job to read fake news.
He can join like Chris Cuomo. They can both work there.
They can. So Babylon Bee offers job to sack clown Stelter. I mean, this is really quite incredible. I don't know if the Babylon Bee has done it just as a provocation, if they really want to give him a job, but he should take that job. I mean, he would definitely, a guy like this would be the ideal guy to read the Babylon Bee piss-off news. You know, they are a satirical site. Stelter, you have a job, go and get it. I mean, that's it. I mean, with a face like that, you can only be on the Babylon Bee. Regarding instead the satanic verses of the guy who was, of course, also the subject of an attack. Last week we saw that Salman Rushdie was attacked.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't really work out well for those people who in a way, hope that Salman Rushdie is simply going to disappear. Nobody was reading the satanic verses any longer. Now everybody wants to read the satanic verses of Salman Rushdie. I don't think the result was so good. In fact, it's kind of like on top of the Amazon book sales charts.
No, some people didn't know who he was.
A lot of people didn't know who he was. But suddenly, he's on top of the bestseller list because he was stabbed. Now, I don't want to be stabbed to go on top of the bestseller list, guys. So please purchase my book without being stabbed. And this book, but also the books of my lovely wife, which is this volume 1 of Illuminati Princess Confessions, and volume 2. These two books.
I just had a friend that I've known my whole life read. She just read my books, and she really enjoyed them. And it made me feel really good because she knows me, and she remembered some of the things that I wrote about in my book. And so, like in the past, because I knew her in my 20s. So she really enjoyed it.
That's good.
I have to get her to leave a review.
That's good. That's very
it made
good.
me feel good.
Huh?
Because, she's my oldest friend. So made me feel good that she liked it. She's like my sister. So.
However, I mean, when it comes down to CNN, it seems like they are aiming for a more centrist audience. I think they want to go back to what they used to be when we grow up. You know, it was a less biased, less politically motivated news service that only goes on the air to attack one person, which is Donald J. Trump. That is so I think that that's their aim now. CNN is the ratings have gone but the ratings have gone down the drain, and now it seems they want to go back up the ladder. It's going to be difficult, and I don't think it's going to be an easy task.
Maybe they can hire you to change the look of this station.
Well, they hire me, they change everything. And of course, if you go on one of these LibTat sites, look what you get. Get vaccinated, wear a mask, all this kind of bullshit, which of course we would like to eliminate in order to see the news, but the news is not possible. You can't see the news in these sites because they just cover it up with the rubbish. My intention was to show you instead this. Warner executive John Malone weighs in on Stelter Hauster, says he wants the new portion of CNN to be more centrist. So you see, the clown goes away, and now they want a more centrist approach.
They have to get rid of that other guy too, John. What's his name? Lemon.
Don Lemon.
Don Lemon.
Well, Don Lemon, definitely. Don Lemon also needs to go, I guess. It's not going to be easy, though, guys. It's not going to be easy for CNN to go back to what they used to be, because I think that they have completely ruined themselves. And in the meantime, you know, the market has changed. There's a lot more. I mean, when they built up their brand, there was nobody doing the 24 hours. They were the first cable news service 24 hours a day of only news. Now everybody in the world is doing it. It's like, it's very difficult to rebuild a brand that you basically, they basically destroyed themselves. I mean, they only have themselves to blame. Now, guys, I would like instead to go to the Vatican and also in Italy, because a few things have happened. Regarding the Vatican, I don't know if I can find the image. There was actually a few days ago, an interesting event that happened when basically one of those Swiss guards collapsed in front of the Pope, just went down. But the news of the day regarding the Pope is that apparently on the 29th and 30th of August, so in 10 days from now, in the secret rooms of the Consistoro, where he will meet with all the cardinals, at that point, he might actually announce his resignation, because what's happening here is a little bit weird. I mean, I want to just give an idea for those who don't know what's happening. I mean, like I said already in June, the Vatican is preparing for the Pope to leave because he's very sick and because he wants to resign. He will leave, though, after nominating more cardinals. That at that point is just like packing the Supreme Council. Then at that point you can basically direct the will of the conclave, of the next conclave, to elect then the Pope. So the Pope is apparently something is happening in the Vatican. A lot of journalists are talking about it. They say qualcosa accadrà. So keep this in mind, guys. There is a possibility that in 10 days from now, the Pope might resign. And if he does resign, of course, you have that first here on the Leo Zagami show. In the meantime, there is a document that will be presented by the Pope that will ulteriorly transform the church, that is being kind of filtered through Dago Spia here, and they talk about the plans that this new church needs to take. This is the document that was filtered through Dago Spia. Now, it says here though, that the consistorial rischiano di volare schiaffoni, which means it risks to become really a fighting match between cardinals who are sincerely pissed off with what's going on in the church and with Pope Francis. So this is definitely an interesting thing that you should all be looking at. Keep it in mind, the Consistoro, which is a reunion of cardinals that the Pope has issued for the first time, though, without any replicas. Usually, a Consistoro is made when the cardinals can meet with the Pope and interact with him. We have this problem. Okay, how are we going to sort it out? Now, the incredible thing about this Consistoro is that the Pope is going to simply deliver a message, and then he's going to leave, and no replicas are previsto. They don't foresee any replicas from the Pope. That is a little bit like when Joseph Ratzinger gave his message in Latin that, sincerely, almost nobody in the room understood, apart from those few priests who understand Latin, minority. And that message was basically that he was resigning. And then it took a day or two to understand what he was saying in that message. But this could happen in 10 days from now. We could be assisting to another historic resignation of the Pope. And that would be an historic resignation unique, because we still have a living resigning Pope. On top, we're going to have another resigning Pope.
3 popes.
And then we're going to have, 3 popes.
And who's the 3rd pope?
Well, the one that they will elect. Probably Cardinal Turkson from Africa, because that's really what's going to happen here. Autumn is going to see the crash of the European markets, the possibility of the start of a catastrophe that will see half of Africa moving to Europe, and then they will need, of course, a pope to make it more acceptable, a little bit like when the fall of the Soviet Union brought a bunch of Polish people to Italy in the 80s, and everybody was saying, who the heck are these people? Oh, well, but the Pope is Polish.
Oh.
So there is definitely a lot of work that has been done behind the scenes. We are now opening, of course, our phone lines.
Who's going to call in?
I don't know. Probably nobody. I mean,
but maybe there's people listening that aren't in the chat, so,
sometimes it can be possible. We of course will stress people to please subscribe to our new channels. We will be also inaugurating a new channel. No?
Yeah.
Next week. So
new Leo Zagami show channel.
Okay, which will be a great thing. So this is the phone number. Let me put it on the screen. +1 970 577 6369. I will open, of course, the phone line. And if you want to call in, as you know, this last part of the show has always had the phone lines open. No?
Yep.
So we would love to hear from you. And the phone lines are now officially open. So you can call in. And nobody's calling. Because who knows if they're going to call. Okay, so we heard what's going to happen in the Vatican. We heard that, of course, this ongoing crisis with the nuclear plant. But have you heard that basically there is going to, in Venezuela, yes, Russia is going to actually have their war games? Because that's what's going to happen. For the first time, basically, the back door the United States, Venezuela is not that far away. I mean, it's like the Americans doing some kind of exercises in Georgia, close to Russia. It is definitely an unprecedented move. Venezuela is very close to Russia. We knew that all along. We know that Venezuela, of course, with Maduro, is in a very desperate situation. And because of that, they will guest the Russia war games. Snipers from Russia and other countries hostile to the United States are competing in war games being held this week in Venezuela. and events described as Olympic Games for soldiers that were organized not only to show that Moscow still has friends, but also that some of them are in Latin America. And so this is, of course, after America has unsuccessfully tried to take away Maduro, get their own, if you remember, no, they had the Mason that was initiated, that was then brought, I don't even remember his name anymore, but nothing changed. Maduro is still there. And the situation, basically, it's now, for the first time in history, we have war games by Russia here in a country in the back door of America. Crazy. A lot of people from Venezuela that are coming in. When you see those people coming in through the border, a lot of them are also from Venezuela. And so are these people also potential terrorists that can go against American interests? Of course, there is a possibility that, and there has been various arrests already at the border. Even Middle Eastern people and of other countries can easily come in, and of course, they can do it thanks to Joe Biden. No. And like we said at the beginning of the show, it's I don't understand how, you see, for example, the Daily Mail, no? The Daily Mail is British, but they are usually very anti-Trump, anti-Republican, they're typical British libtards. But having said that, how is it possible? And then they don't realize that the death of downtown San Francisco, Cleveland, and Portland have seen drop by almost 50%, a soaring crime in the Democrat Trans cities forces workers. It says here, Democrat Trans cities. So why the heck do you continue supporting these idiots? Are the British people libtards, or are
they are.
Yes, no, but are they libtards or are they retards? It's like, because if you don't understand this, you must be completely demented. No, I mean it's obvious that the situation in the democratic cities and all the cities, unfortunately, are in the hands of the Democrats, because in the big cities, very few people are really politically motivated. That's what happens, and that's why I replied to you, telling you, listen, I know in New York nobody cares about politics, but is this a good thing? No, it's not a good thing. It's absolutely not a good thing. Now, another thing that is a little bit disturbing, it's regarding instead the fact that they are starting to confiscate weapons in the United States of America. In this case, we're talking about rare breed FRT 15 triggers that, of course, were sold legally and very tranquil. I mean, they even have a video about this kind of triggers on Vimeo. You can check it out. I mean, now apparently they got, they got basically the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives at their doors to confiscate previously legal forced reset triggers for AR-15 style rifles. So this is what's happening. I mean, they're starting to confiscate things, and the possibility that they come to your door and confiscate your weapon, it's always a possibility. Let me show you what you're talking about. Of course, this is a trader, publicity sponsored by the kind of thing that they confiscated, that basically transformed your gun more in a rifle kind of thing.
Has a specific cycle of operation. All semi-automatic firearms have 8 steps that occur during the cycle of operation. Those steps are firing, unlocking, extracting, ejecting, cocking, feeding.
So it's of course they're starting their war against semi-automatic rifles, but where they're gonna end up? If it was for the Democrats, we're gonna not even be able to own a pistol or anything of sorts. They are coming after your rifles, your weapons, your everything, because they want us with no weapons in the future, so they can abuse us. They can, of course, do everything that our ancestors and the people who created this great country of America already visioned back then, and that's why we have the First and the Second Amendment. There is no freedom of speech without guns in your hands. And let me tell you, I've witnessed that by living in countries in Europe where, of course, just like in China in 1949, they went after the war door by door and took every single gun possible away from the citizens, who are now in the hands of a bunch of criminals. Because when you don't have the guns, then the guns are still circulating, but they're circulating in the hands of the criminals, of the crooks. So, you know, what is better? Is it better to have a legal gun? It's a little bit like the question regarding the drugs. No, I mean, I know that not all conservatives think like that, but many do. We had, of course, a friend, Pratik Moore, who worked with Roger Stone on the Stone project regarding marijuana. The legalization of drugs definitely takes money from the criminals. Now, the next move, though, of the legalization might be a very controversial one, as Colombia, the #1 country producer of cocaine, wants to legalize it. Now that is, though, a very good move, because finally, if you start legalizing these kind of drugs, you are taking the supply of money that constantly goes and feeds the black ops and all the illegal activities, also run by the intelligence agencies and the Illuminati and the Freemasons and all that. So yes.
So do you think if they make it legal that more people would do it?
No. But no, it's not more people. I mean,
I think just probably the same people would do it and the same people wouldn't do it.
Listen, I mean, alcohol was prohibited.
Yeah,
it didn't make really a difference. I mean, it makes a difference when it comes down to the fact that you are taking away that money. I mean, during the prohibition, the mafia made their money. That's how they made their money. So Colombia, largest cocaine supplier to US, considered decriminalizing. And this will be an historic move, because this is a country that is constantly in war with the drug cartels, with the army that is constantly involved in this battle. With the decriminalization, you are basically capable of focusing on the real things, making the country richer. And I mean, I think that at the end of the day, it's not such a bad idea. I might not like cocaine myself, but for those who like it, buy it in the shop. Who cares? It's something that needs to be taken away from the illegal market, because if you leave it in the legal market, it obviously helps.
Man, the TikToks will be crazy if they start doing cocaine.
But the problem is they already do cocaine. But the problem here is there is a big problem here that we need to discuss.
Okay.
Cocaine today here in America is being cut with fentanyl. And we know people that unfortunately by mistake ended up using it and nearly lost their lives. And we had a neighbor who died last year because of fentanyl.
But he didn't do cocaine.
But no, he didn't. He did it because they give him either they give you sleeping pills with fentanyl, like in the case of that guy, or either they put it in cocaine. Because then the problem is fentanyl here. Fentanyl is being used by China to undermine the US, and China is paying the cartels in Mexico to do that dirty job. Those assholes from the cartels in Mexico, both the Sinaloa cartel, the Jalisco, whatever it's called, all that bullshit they're doing in Tijuana, these people are financed by China. That's what nobody's saying, because everybody's scared of the cartels. So the problem here is fentanyl is produced in China, given to the cartels, and then the cartels bring it into America. Can you pick up, please, Rambo, so it makes less trouble for us? So it's
what are you doing?
It's a big problem, definitely. So everyone watching this now, please repost the recorded episode later. Thank you, Bruce. Yes, people should definitely help us by reposting this video. Rambo, what have you been doing? Huh?
Pull my dress.
Come on. This is the first dog protagonist. Very protagonist.
Sit down. He's not going to stay.
Listen, you.
He's wild.
Are you wild? Why are you wild?
He's wild because nobody called in.
Nobody called in, so you became wild? Rambo.
What happened to you guys? I guess most of our viewers that were viewing us, don't subscribe to the emergency channels.
As usual.
Now we know.
Yeah, well, we know that they don't listen to us, but that's okay.
You don't listen. I thought you listened, but you didn't listen.
They don't listen. People really could do, they could just push the button. So when, if, because now it's a problem of
He's
if.
just that, so I can't do anything.
Can you just put him on the thing and do what you usually do to make him be tranquil? He's playing with his monkey. No, not
I
monkey
can't.
walks.
What am I going to do?
Pick up Rambo and his monkey. I don't know. Do something. Pick up.
Here.
Pick up.
He ran away. Okay, he's sitting down. I'm just going to leave him. I'm going to leave him sitting there. He's sitting there now.
Well.
I'm not going to encourage him.
Okay, guys, let's move on. We still have some news. In Italy, by the way, there has been some crazy weather and pieces of we've been in Venice, and Venice is a beautiful place, but it's also a place that we witnessed during the Acqua Alta. You remember we went around and there was water everywhere. But this time, pieces of the San Marco de Campanile, of the actual church, were coming off. Let me show you what happened in Venice.
Alla che arriva, via!
Here we are. Of course, we are in one of the most famous squares in Italy. You were saying a bell is a bell, but campanile of a church is not a bell. Let me translate it for you. And it's a bell tower. That's what it is. The bell pieces of the bell tower.
Oh, so the actual structure that was holding the bell.
Yes, the campanile, there was cave pieces of, and so they had to send the drones to check out if the campanile, the bell tower, was still okay. This because we had some crazy weather in Italy in the last few days. Also in Rome, there was some crazy weather yesterday. There were people who died and whatnot. So let me show you what happened when they sent up the drone. I mean, at least this is a very nice view to see if this bell tower was actually damaged. But fortunately, even if something falls from it, we don't exactly understand what.
So this is in Venice?
Yes, this is Venice.
I don't remember it.
It was in the square we made the photo yesterday.
Oh. Okay.
You remember that square?
Now I do.
Okay.
St. Marco's Square?
Yes.
And that's
this is the company of somebody, yes. Okay. So they sent up the drones and there doesn't seem to be any damage, fortunately. Huh?
That's good.
That's good, no? Okay. And we have yet more news. Because there is a scandal in Finland. With their young and beautiful prime minister, who was caught off guard in a private party being a little bit too wild. And so then
Prime Minister's gone wild?
Oh, very wild. Check this out. And they actually she had to do a drug test. She did a drug test
These videos are private and filmed in a private space. I resent that these became known to the public. I spent a night with my friends. We just partied, also in a boisterous way.
Railakkaastikin kyllä, tanssinut ja laulanut.
Did you use intoxicants in these situations?
Alcohol.
No drugs?
Not that I know of.
In one of the videos, they mention a flower gang. What is that?
I don't know anything about that.
Are there maybe other videos which have been used to blackmail you?
Now, I know Helsinki very well. I even brought you to Helsinki, but only at the airport once, yeah? On our way to Tallinn. I used to work in Helsinki in the club, and apparently she's a friend of Lil Tony, who used to be an owner of clubs, and I think he still is a known DJ, one of the most known DJs in Finland. So she might have been one of my parties. I used to actually DJ in Finland up till 2002, I think.
Well, it's so cool.
I am not being blackmailed. These are private videos and they were not supposed to be public.
When were the videos filmed? Who filmed them?
They were filmed this summer and in a private home. I'm not saying whose home it is.
This scandal came this morning with another video. And that of course made the news. So I mean, after you know that of course you can dance. For some people, her dance here was a little bit too close. So let's judge it together. Here we go. It's enough. So stop, because the sound went bad, which is something that happens here on StreamYard sometimes. Just a second. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen. We are, of course, with our show in an unusual setup, which is the unusual. Not the setup is the same. It's the unusual, the platforms we're broadcasting with, because we are using channels that we don't really broadcast usually from. So we picked up on those really faithful individuals who love our show.
Yeah, you guys really love our show.
And we are happy for that, and we thank you so much because, I
speak 1,000 blessings on you.
And we hope that next week we will be back with a new channel that will definitely become known to you. You need to go on YouTube in one day or two and put the Leo Zagami Show. You will find a brand new channel full of content. We will upload there all the videos that me and Christy ever did together, all our broadcasts, and much more. Because this is the new home of the Leo Zagami Show on YouTube, and we're going to make it a special place. And we're going to promote it in every social network possible and imaginable. And hopefully we're not going to have the other one removed, but it's highly possible. We are at the second strike that our main channel will be removed. And a lot of people will probably never find us again because they don't bother to simply subscribe to the emergency channels. Nothing. You can say it a million times and people just don't get it.
I don't know. Maybe I should wear a T-shirt.
It says so. Oh well. We tried, guys. We tried.
I'll just wear a subscribe T-shirt.
Subscribe to the new channel. And
did we see the? Oh yeah, did we see the dancing? I guess we didn't, or we did.
Our dancing?
No, the dancing of the intimate.
It was not the dancing.
Well, I would never.
Well, I mean, whatever.
You're so jealous. You're a jealous man.
But the Finnish people are not so jealous, so that is not really. I mean, it's a normal thing in Finland. They are all a little bit like that. The men are a little bit half man. Sorry.
Well, you're not.
Well, yeah. So, but in Scandinavia, I mean, you've been with me in Tallinn and stuff. I mean, the men are a little bit more condescending. So even the husband maybe doesn't mind.
I like that here too.
Maybe,
I don't know. There's some.
Listen, guys. Maybe the husband likes to watch. Who knows?
He goes in the closet and watches.
It's definitely weird. So we don't know what happened here with Sanna Marin, the Prime Minister of Libtard Finland, which is, by the way, a country that is completely libtarded. I mean, it gave us Nokia, by the way. That is one of the things that they gave. That is okay. Now, before closing the show, I want to go down to where I come from, where my family comes from, where still I have family in the island of Lipari, in the Aeolian Islands, where unfortunately, like in other places like Pantelleria, in the last few hours, there's been a really bad fire that is going close to the houses, including the house of my cousin. Okay? Well, I hope everybody's okay, but this is the island of Lipari, in the Aeolian Islands near Sicily.
You have to call your mother.
Well, definitely. The island of Lipari is the biggest island in the Aeolian Islands, and it's an island where, in the land of my family, they found an ancient Jewish cemetery, which, of course, is also being reported in the Encyclopedia of Jewish Things in Sicily, because it is a rarity, and with the menorah depicted and all the things, and that is in the land of my family. So that is in Lipari, and of course my cousin Bartolino. You met Bartolino, who's the owner of the electric plant that gives electricity to both Lipari and Vulcano. So he's like a big businessman over there. It's a private electric company. So I guess he will have to also, in some way, probably be careful that he doesn't get his power line damaged. I don't know. I mean, definitely we have to give a call and see what's happening down in Lipari. But this is, of course, news. And after, there was also a big fire in the island of Pantelleria, which went into the land owned by Armani, because Armani has this big chunk of land in Pantelleria and this other island down in Sicily. It's not the Aeolian Islands. Pantelleria is on the lower side, it's on the other side of the island. And fortunately, they managed to stop this fire. But it was actually, in the case of Pantelleria, triggered by some criminal act. It wasn't just a natural fire. Now we don't know. Arson, yes. And so I hope it's not arson also in Lipari, because that would be very sad. Somebody said, I would like your enlightening opinion. Did Jack Person die in an accident? Well, Andrea, just read my book. It's written on Invisible Master, if you know how to read in English. Otherwise, you can wait for volume 4 in the Italian edition. But that is basically where you can find that kind of information. Okay. We are, of course...
Get Rambo.
Get Rambo, but before you get Rambo, I would like to also show you something else, because in Panama, there is people who, they like going around in helicopters in Panama. But yesterday something happened that was filmed by a crew on the helicopter, and the helicopter went down with the whole crew. And of course, it's an incredible scene. I mean, check out what happened, and let's check it out together. Because there were fires, of course, and so they were kind of like patrolling the area. No, these people were on the helicopter, tranquil, they were thinking everything is fine and dandy until the helicopter crashes. And they're on it and they're filming. So this is kind of incredible. I think it's incredible. I mean, they survived.
Oh. Oh my.
¿Está bien? Dimitri, ¿está bien? Sácame de aquí ya.
They made it safe, guys. They made it safe. I don't know how, but they made it safe. This was the Leo Zagami Show, Saturday, August 20th of the year of the Lord 2022. Rambo, are you still willing?
This is monkey, everybody.
Yes, this is not monkey box, so this is monkey. Well, it kind of seems like the other monkey box because look. I mean, look at the back of this monkey. I mean, what does he have? Rambo, what did you do with this monkey? Rambo, what did you do with this monkey?
Favorite monkey. Look how cute.
Huh? Rambo. Okay. Rambo, name somebody? Oh, okay. Bye, Rambo. Let's dance.
Everybody dance.
Everybody dance. The Leo Zagami Show will be back. We'll be back.
Bruce, dance. Katie, dance. I want to see you dancing. I feel it.
We have also
I feel your dance.
we have also a squirrel, but the squirrel Rambo doesn't like the squirrel as much as he likes the monkey.
We also have a broke down otter.
Oh yeah? We have a penguin.
And we have a penguin.
But he doesn't like penguin.
He's really digging into my dress with his paws. I'm ruining my dance.
Leo and Christy.
Can you stop? Why are you so wild? Knock it off.
Okay. Okay. So next Saturday, in 7 days, on Sunday.
Oh my gosh.
What's happened?
I popped my button.
Okay, guys. See you later. From Palm Springs, California. That was the Leo Zagami Show. Next week we'll be back on Facebook. We will have a new official the Leo Zagami Show channel on YouTube. So please go and find it on YouTube in the next couple of days. It's a new channel. The Leo Zagami Show will have a new channel before they remove the official one. Hey Rambo, what are you doing? Are you tip tapping? Are you dancing? He's dancing! That's it from Palm Springs.